Hi, this is Sheila with Conscious Conversation Central, and today is Sunday. I almost said Saturday, December 1st, 2019. And I don't have my full Gal Pal posse tonight as Lisa's energies were still.
That better?
Oh, how cool. Oh, I like that.
That's good? Okay.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. Yeah, for now, we can still see ya. Yep, Lisa's energies were still required in the DC metropolitan area apparently for one more night. So it is just BZ and I tonight. But BZ, thanks for coming. I'm glad we got to play. So we were just kind of chatting on what we were going to talk about before we started. And you were describing a few things. And I said, oh my gosh, BZ, I feel like you're describing well, and watching wasn't quite the right word, but that's what I said. Watching the Great Awakening in real time, and I actually thought, well, wait a minute, that's kind of what almost all, quote unquote starseeds are doing, isn't it? We're kind of. But I'd like for you to describe what it was that you were talking about, because you were speaking on energies. I think we were actually speaking about how I felt like Lisa's energy was required one more night in DC.
Right.
And that's kind of what sparked that part of the conversation.
Well, part of what I was describing an event that was at work, and it involved a couple of different people in one of the buildings, and one of the things that was interesting, it was an intersection of timelines and events on multiple levels, and which I'll describe in a minute. But I started by describing it from a scent, from like a dog's nose, and scenting pools of scent, pools of odor, and how, well, for humans too, but how when a pool of scent converges on another pool of scent, and then you come and you can see, either it just muddies everything, or you can see and sense and smell the distinct pools of scent, and then you, like a Sherlock Holmes, you can figure out which one is the one that you're looking for. So to give you an overview, what was happening is there was at work, there was this building that one person was coming through in one door, another person was coming through in another door. They had communicated via text, hey, I'm over here, can you come help with this? And the third person, which is myself, was coming through another door, all at the exact same moment. And so you could, another way to describe it what was happening is, so one reality was unfolding for each of the different people, and they were converging. They were intersecting and they were converging. And there was action taking place, and there was kind of a slip and fall from another player in there converging as well. And when I stepped through, it was interesting that I just used the word step through. So I opened the door and walked in, but I stepped through this convergence. And so from a multi-locational consciousness perspective, engagement, and creation process. So actually 3 different levels, because when I was, part of what made you think about, watching it or participating in it, in the Great Awakening in real time, was because I was talking about how when the scent pools were converging, I was going like this, that so this player came in and this player came in and I came in this way. So they converged, and I went like this, and so that it was all rising up into a different.
Yeah, it was like when you were describing it to me, what I saw immediately was how the different layers, because it was what I felt from what you were describing, could almost, for me, feel like layers, and how they would permeate and mix and mingle in together. And then also, because we're actually, for me, we're speaking on frequencies.
Right.
I know that scent pools, especially, with your nose training that you're doing with Keegan recently, is a good metaphor. But for me, I was seeing frequential overlaps, and how, for me, knowing how frequency works, as it permeates, it does a lot of things. It can go up, it can go down, it can expand in different ways, right?
Right.
And so when I don't know, it just, like, I felt like all at once I could feel and see, sense and feel that that's kind of what we are all doing in a way.
Right. So by me, yes, you described that beautifully. So by me walking through and having my frequency at a more expansive, steadily held consciousness bandwidth, intentionally, than the other players that were involved in this whole dance. On one level, I was, going on the scene set, right? My entering the stage on the play, one from the right, one from the left, and me straight. I was watching me and the other players do that. And then I was the unified field, observing all of that, and the, kind of the other things going on in the whole physical location, which is quite a large place of where the work is. So, and one of the things that you and I were talking about as relates to starseeds and all that doing is and talking about, well, I'm looking at different things and playing with different things, but I'm still frustrated with what's my mission, this and that. And that was where we were talking about, that's an example right in that moment of, I wasn't brandishing a sword, I wasn't coming up with some magical elixir, I wasn't, I was simply being me, walking onto the set of this convergence of these things happening, and could be described as holding the space, noticing, and in the noticing, just creating that. It's almost like a pillar of light. It was a structure that allowed, as you had said, those frequencies to converge and then be elevated up that corridor of light.
Yeah, it also called to mind for me, several of my last conversations with Lisa and our experiences here in our co-creative community, whereby, and I feel like this is why this is a really cool conversation to have, period, because there's still a lot of folks, and I sometimes still feel the same way. Like, what's my mission? I'm not getting any guidance as to my mission and that sort of thing, right? Because there's so many folks that feel like they know what they're supposed to be doing. And so, I'm the boob that's standing around on the corner going, hey, I want to do something, but I don't know what. And I've come to the conclusion that, especially after some of these experiences lately, the mission is me.
Yes.
The mission is you. The mission is unbinding and unwinding, to use your terminology, a different programming and conditioning that keeps us from moving towards that which we desire in every moment of every now. And I've seen this evidentiary proof recently in those other conversations with Lisa, where simply showing up and doing self, all that that entails, ripples throughout and will cause alchemical epiphanies for others. Like I said, I saw it right in this house by Lisa standing in her authenticity and doing fiercely her. By her doing her, just and keeping her promises to herself, how just being uniquely Lisa, that caused me this huge alchemical epiphany. And this can't be the only time in history that this kind of thing happens.
No,
I think it happens all over the place all the time.
All the time, yeah. And that's where the noticing, comes in, because so the noticing is where you simply notice it. And also in the noticing, you allow yourself the wherewithal, the capacity, and the noticing of that capacity to be in a bilocational consciousness, right? So you're doing something. I was walking through the door, right? So this kind of thing with 3 people. So that's what I was doing. And I'm noticing all that is around, all that is going on at the same moment. Oh, this one's walking this way, this one's walking this way, this other thing is happening, going on. And I'm noticing all of it, including me, as I'm looking at myself outside of myself, walking through it. So that's what I'm saying, is facilitating me then opening up to a multi-locational consciousness. And I think one thing I would add to what you were describing is, or the way I would phrase it, is that it allows us to, and people will hold it in different ways. Yes, your heart's desire, your true north, that which is your core of you, of being, of here right now, being you is your mission, because it facilitates all of these other things. What, when, and how, when the moment arises, right? Wherever you go, there you are. And so if you need to take this step or fly this thing or create this thing or have this thought form pop into form so that it can coalesce with all these other things that are going on, the focus, the catalyst, the creator, the builder, the architect, the supporter, the noticer, right? And you're all of those things and many more in that moment, is facilitating that to happen. So in that moment, your mission is to do whatever that is that it's unfolding. And that can be with, in this example, there's 3 beings in the room, 3 people in the room, right? Or it could be just you, or hundreds.
Well, yeah, because we don't stop to think, or I didn't until recently. Well, I guess over the last little bit here, that I've used these words, that as source, all that is, this particular uh, okay. Is that Keegan? All right. This particular point of source, that's the way I've come to view this, because I really do feel like this physical vessel is the lensing mechanism.
Right.
And because we've done a really good job of convincing ourselves that we're not that important, apparently.
Right. And small.
Right. Yeah. Really small and not important and all that kind of stuff. But each point of source is unique in that point.
Right.
And everything that each point of source, each moment of me elsewhere, has, of course, its own filtering mechanisms, its own experiences, its own expansion point, and therefore that's the singularity part. But each one is important. And I don't feel anymore like we have to know what the mission is, except that it is me. I'm the mission. I am my mission, figuring out what makes me happy, what I need to do for me.
Right.
Is
And
the most important thing.
and being true to that. So
Yes.
so coming from the heart, focusing lens mechanism, the noticing standpoint, that true north, so the true heart based area, not the nattering, chattering, and the ego mind, those kinds of things. And I would illuminate a little bit more and say, not only is, you phrase it, that they're important, each being, each beam of source, which is everybody, is essential and integral to all that going on and unfolding, all that magnification, coalescing, unification, and bright, singularity beacon to unfold, to have that expansion. So something is not completed and come into coherence just right if the being is refusing to be themselves, to be that beacon of light, that corridor, that true north, if that makes sense.
Well, it does. That's why I think the programming and conditioning that we, admittedly did to each other, that was the whole point, is to pull it off from that.
Right.
To pull this particular, I'll just speak for myself, this particular point of source off the center, off the mission. Because if the mission is me and I don't think I'm important, well, then I'm off mission. Oh, thanks.
Right. You'll never get on the op.
No, that's right.
You won't get on the cargo plane, or the if it's a rescue mission or a love mission or a support, whatever it is, you use whatever terms you want to fill in. You just won't show up. You'll miss the boat on all sorts of things. And in this, and kind of like a turn on the phrase, wherever you go, there you are. You never get to go where you are because you're not showing up as who you are.
Oh, I like that. I like the way you put that, because that's true. That's very true. Wow.
So we started this whole conversation. We were working on a big conversation on how to narrow down parts of it, and we were looking at two other things, which we'll get to, not in this one, but we'll get to. But this, I think, is very important, because the moment that I described, and the particularities are only important for a little bit I gave to hold the scene, but this is happening for every being over and over and over again in various different configurations, many times a day, for a lot of beings, most beings, hundreds of times a day. And in just noticing it, so that you're being fully present in the moments, you can, it not only are you watching, the Great Awakening in real time, whether it's just you alone in a room, or you alone in a parking lot, or you alone in a car, wherever you're alone, or there's other things going on, that it is unfolding. So you're noticing it and you're facilitating it. And there, you take the slash between, and they happen in confluence with each other, in coherence with each other, and consecutively, and in what's the other
Cohesively?
yeah, that's that too. That wasn't the word. Concurrent.
Oh, okay. Oh, yes. Well, yeah, because I was trying to describe what I was feeling was, uh, and I wanted to use the word collapsing, but it's not a collapsing. It's a, and what just now came in is an implosion, explosion at the same moment.
Yeah.
Because it's an inner and an outer kind of thing.
Well, yeah, and when we were talking about that before, I made the motion of your breathing, so you're breathing in and you're breathing out, and it happens. It's not this and then that. It's this and that at the same time. And as that airflow moves, it's, well, if you break that down, it's oxygenating and also refreshing, purifying. Bringing in the new, out with the old, all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're not standalone things. It's all of a piece. And so when we do that, it could be whether you're reading something, watching something, talking about something, doing a little tiny piece, part of a task at work, or in, maybe if you're a parent or something, any of those kinds of things. All of those things are all part of that. One way you could look at it is that you become so present, you're not slowing things down or stopping things, but you're multidimensional. So you walk into a room and you don't just read it from a linear, right in front of you, your ears hearing, your eyes seeing something, maybe your nose smelling something, right? Yes, you do that, but you think of yourself walking in, and not just the front plane of you noticing this stuff, but 360 degrees of you. So above, below, to the sides, back and around. So you have vision all the way around, sensing array all the way around. And it's more than just, at the end of your extremities.
Now we're on to the other portion of our conversation that we were speaking about, as far as I'm concerned. And that is that in order to have that amount of noticing, one must be attentive and focus, and not be, because that's something that I noticed about myself, and most recently, in that if I'm allowing my mind, my thoughts, to be pulled outside of that moment that I'm in, then my sensory array is off, because my attention, my focus and attention is not in the present moment. It is over here because now I'm late and traffic's going to be backed up, and no, and that's what happens. That's why I, in particular, I'll only speak for myself, now know that is in order to easily and continually notice that's kind of a sensory array, that means that other stuff has to be put away. Because, or at least for me, I don't have that kind of focus and attention where I can be over here nattering away about something that really makes no sense and doesn't even matter because it's 5 minutes from now, rather than what's here at the moment. And that takes focus and attention.
Yes. And I absolutely agree with that. And what I have in my own way stepped through is that you can then take it a step further. You can take your bilocational consciousness in a wider aperture. You can take your awareness, focus, and attention conscious in a wider aperture and go beyond that. So you can, in your multidimensional state, when you get more in the flow of wielding it and tuning it, you can be completely focused right in this moment, in the present moment. So here's the headache alert, right? So in the present, and you mentioned about this, the being here now and all that kind of stuff, except we are multidimensional. And our multidimensionality is showing all over the place. So if we're being present in the moment and we're multidimensional, then it's more than one moment, which is all in this moment, all happening right now.
But if you notice, what I was speaking on pertains most specifically to programming and conditioning.
Right. And that's where the distortions, so you notice and can categorize and go, oh, that's a distortion. It's actually a made up thing that either I inserted that program, or it's, a program that got inserted. I could take that out. And so you can step out of it. Yeah. So again, it's as you get playing with it more, you can do that, but you can also, let's talk about logistics for a moment, right? So if you're walking in, so this thing that I was talking about has something to do with logistics. So knowing that there were some conditions and some propensity of other beings at work that were going on, right? That given what was unfolding that day, the likelihood, the weighting to potentiality of possibilities was going in a certain direction. So it hadn't happened yet, but that was a possibility. So if you look from a more, just to go linear thing, okay, well, if those are potentialities and I take care of these logistics or facilitate these logistics being taken care of, then I can affect or have an affect or an effect on those potentialities that will mitigate the constriction part of them, or the negative or the downside or the right constraining thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And part of this thing at work is when I look at that, it's just the way that I walk in the world, or that I see things, or that I notice things. It's almost like I can see multiple video streams of it, or, like, so something's going on and I know, okay, well, there's going to be 3 players now, and this one player is favoring their back, whatever it is. So if we change something within the room of where they've got to do something, whatever it is, then that will mitigate certain potentialities that could be an ouch factor, that could be harder to do a task. Does that make sense?
I think so, yeah.
So I can see all of that given where I, before any of that happens, I can see that those are potentialities. So in other words, when I see them I actually see them in my mind, in my being, but I also see video streams of them. And so then I can think, okay, well, could you go back to the work thing? Say, okay, if you go do that, or if we can make this happen or do this happen, that will, I may describe it that way, but then I won't say, well, the video said this and the other thing. That oops won't happen, and that one won't happen, and that one won't happen, and that one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And this was one of those moments where it occurred to me that I don't know that it's completely unique, but it's unique to me the way I do it. And for some, because they just haven't noticed, they're not allowing themselves to wake to their sensory arrays. It's doesn't even occur in the picture. It just doesn't compute. So the reason that when I was describing that, the kind of the converging of things, and what I was describing was painting the picture for you of watching the Great Awakening in real time, is in that moment where this person came in from the right, one came in from the left, I came in straight ahead. So I was the person, I was me coming in straight ahead to this, I was watching me and the others come in. And then I was the unification of it. So that corridor, I'm not sure the right way to describe it, but that beam of light, that structure of coherence in the frequencies, aligning the fields of each of the individual people, aligning and being in such a coming into coherence that it all raised up, or expanded, and the light bulb of that thing went on for each one of them. Does that make sense?
Yes.
There was shearing force and some friction and kind of bits of linear fallout until kind of like the light bulb went on. There was either frustration or or pushback, or not quite getting the picture, and then the picture came in, and all of a sudden, like, their video screens went on.
Well, I think I was describing once before, and I know I have felt this in some of the experiences here in the house between, like I was saying, between Lisa and I. As each being unbinds and unwinds whatever it is within them that keeps them small, or keeps them in some way suppressed, oppressed, whatever it is that they're doing to themselves, because let's make no mistake, at this
Right.
point I feel like that's what's happening on the
Right.
planet. So as each being stands in their own authenticity, regardless of what that is, it makes a ripple effect. And that's something that we were speaking on in this in regards to the Great Awakening in real time.
Right.
And all it really requires is being true to self.
Right.
Now, of course, for me, as I said, I had to kind of figure out what self wanted, likes, dislike, all those kind of things, because, well, I just didn't know. And I'm enjoying the ride of figuring all of that out and being true to it as it happens. And so seeing how that ripples out like that, and we don't know where all it will permeate, and it doesn't even matter.
Doesn't matter. Yeah.
That's part of, for me, I see that as and why Sophia Love's words always produce such a huge effect in me about we are the ones and we've anchored the light and it is done. Yes, standing in our own authenticity, unbinding and unwinding these things within self, and being present at and noticing that at the moment and seeing that take place in others is that's why I think we kind of came up with this noticing facilitating.
Yeah, because
It is
that's the mission at that moment, at that point of light, that interaction. And in noticing and facilitating it right in that, like that intersection going on, it does have ripples out. And you could, just as maybe a fun thing, see if you can follow them. But being present in that moment is all that matters, because if you're not, and you're not noticing and facilitating, then it can't ripple out, because the integral component, which is you, is not showing up. So in the moment as it happens, it keeps going, because in that intersection there was coherence with those other beings, and now that's going out in with them. They may not be, for a bit, they may not be consciously doing that, but it keeps rippling within them. So it's like you go to some place and you take a sample of something, like a farmer's market, and take a sample, and you say thanks and whatever, you have a conversation with the vendor, and then you keep going. But it's on your tongue. And you may be having a conversation and looking what other things are. And then you may be thinking, oh, having friends over this. And it's like creating a whole menu all you did was have a pretzel with, maybe some organic Dijon mustard that was the fruit or whatever it is, right? I mean, I used to do this when I had Charlotte's Gardens, and I would watch this happen. And I wasn't attached to people buying anything right at that moment. I just wanted them to have fun, be present in so they taste it and say, oh, thanks, and they keep walking and talk to their friend. And I knew that it was working with them in whatever worked for them, because either they'd come back and ask me where was something, I was managing the market, where was something, and I could tell them which of the vendors, or gee, that was really great, where can I buy it, or whatever it was, because it's that same thing. In that moment, they were noticing and facilitating their own taste bud awakening, their own pleasure of what they wanted to create with connections with others, in that example.
right. So I guess what I'm feeling in regards to all of this is, by paying attention to self, it's another reason why it's a bit or it used to be a bit confusing for me. By paying attention to self fully in all moments, and I like asking myself questions, if I don't get something, or if if something's not working out for me or whatever, I ask myself questions. And so, but by doing that, and staying true to that, that's the whole point. That's the whole mission. That's
Yes. Another way you could look at it is, that is your training for your missions. That is your, beefing up your skills. That is your connecting with the things that would help you get better at, be more available, more successful, more productive in your missions, right? So if someone is there are special forces. So someone said, well, you're selfish if you're, because that's the other thing, that's a programming thing to, no, they're doing it because they want to be part of the team. So we're talking about the ultimate team, not just, a team of 6 or whatever it is. This is the team.
I don't know. Could that be humanity you're speaking on?
I'm talking
Yes,
about,
I think,
I'm talking
I
about
think,
the whole team, the all team.
well, yes, there's different levels,
Yeah.
but you're right. No, you're right.
And so when you have that focus, you are building your muscles. You are, um, getting your moves down. You are taking off the distortion. If you're trying to, I don't know why a gun is coming to mind, but if you're trying to shoot a pistol or a rifle, whatever it is, if you've got dirt or grease is kind of balled up or something, the action of the gun will not work properly. So if you have distortions that are keeping you from noticing, or maybe there's something blocking part of your sensory array, your whole mechanism, I use the analogy of the gun, but your whole mechanism cannot move, cannot have the right action for using its abilities to go through.
Yeah, and that can apply to so many different things right there too. It can
Yeah.
apply to the physical lensing mechanism. It can apply to just your thought process. It can,
It's
I
all
mean,
of your bodies.
all the different ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I would close this one by saying that this is happening to each being many times a day. We'll leave it at that, in many different ways. So start to notice when you go through things, be in the present moment and be the present moment. So be in it, be in coherence with it and flow with it, where you're noticing and then facilitating. And where is the feeling, the intersection, the coherence, the collaboration, and the um it's co-creation as well with the heart to move forward, because that's where you'll find your mission, because that's where you find the true you. So you will be you, showing up to be where you are.
Yeah, that just inspired a conversation in my mind. Um, the be you. Uh, there's awful lot of us that have struggled with that being you. Again, for me, I didn't really know who I was. I think a lot of us have that issue. We think, oh yeah, well, I'm a mom and I'm a secretary and I'm the, and okay, yes, those are all true things, maybe. Um, yeah, thank you for that.
Well, and this is part of that, is what I wrote down here before. It's time to renew my trust. I am contributing to the highest good of all in my own unlimited way. And that's another thing of what we're talking about right
Right.
here, is and how that shows up. And how do you do that, as you talked about, to be you, right? But you've got to trust, and there is that trust and that love and that knowing, and that it's that core, it's that.
Well, you hit something really important there that I lost when you said that be you before. It's also the showing up
Yeah.
part. Okay, so if because of the programming and conditioning, a lot of times we don't show up to be you because of whatever. I mean, and it doesn't even really matter what the whatever is, but there's a whole bunch of reasons that we don't. Some of them are programmed conditioned reasons. Some of them, and some of them are really just BS reasons that we give ourselves.
Pretty much all of them.
as to why we don't show up for ourselves. But that right there for me is the biggest, the absolute biggest. If you can't show up to be authentically yourself for any sort of reason, then you're off mission. I'm sorry, but that's the way I feel about it at this point.
That's a good way to put it. Yep, absolutely.
You're not only are you off mission, but it's a big disservice for yourself and all the rest of all that is.
And you're putting your energy behind being off mission. You actually are you are actively engaged in being off mission.
Yeah. So that's a really big thing there about being you and showing up for you in
Standing
all
for
moments.
You. Stand for you. Stand for you.
Yeah. You know, regardless of all the old things, if you don't stand up for yourself, nobody else will. All those kinds of things are absolutely true. But in regards to...
But it's different. It's a different frequency. Standing up for and standing for there are no like sticky pieces of Velcro. If you stand up for yourself, there could be other things that stick to that, like it's confrontational.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Yeah.
But when you stand for you, it's loved wrapped titanium. So it's smooth, it's seamless, it's unbreakable, unshakable, right? It is
well, exactly. That's what okay. So it brings back to mind, as has this entire conversation, as to what took place between Lisa and I here. I would never, ever, ever want anyone to not do what they feel moved to do and be for themselves. That is not what I would want. You know, I want everyone to stand authentically in and be them and show up for them. And it was a miscommunication. And once I understood that is what was taking place, a standing for self, made a promise to self, wanted to keep the promise to self. Well, hey, I'm all about that because I'm in for that myself. So by standing for, like you said, I'm not used to using that terminology, but showing up for self, being true to self and trusting that you're, regardless of doing you in every moment, is the best for the all.
Right. And so there's a pinpoint example, right, where Lisa was the mission, was doing her mission, and was affecting the all with the completion of the mission, which was herself and the Sheila, right?
Right.
So just like the same thing we started this conversation of at work, where there was the three people that entered the room simultaneously, and what occurred was real-time awakening and expansion, elevation, right? Shift in frequency,
right?
Consciousness in that moment.
Right. And that's what's the most important thing right there. That's and it's the exact, I feel it feels the exact same thing as to doing what your heart desires. It's the exact same thing for me.
Right.
It's the same frequency, I guess I should say. So yeah, I mean, that's why it's so important that everyone do authentically themselves and show up for themselves, regardless of the programming and conditioning that we've all been, you know, exposed to. And
yeah, because you're, another way to look at it too is you are so not small. You are so not small that when you don't stand for you, when you block or obfuscate or muddy the waters, or kind of put more growth on the distortion that either someone gave you or that you took on or that you're perpetuating, however you want to hold that right there. There's no way you can do any facet of your mission or be of service or contribute, or because you're leaving the most important part, the starting point, the origination, telegraphing, transmitting point out, which is you, because you're source. And source went forth to know source in all of the millions of, as a small number, ways to go and do that. And if you're not showing up, then you're not doing your mission.
Yeah. Yeah, that's for me, that's the end. That's the end result there. And then what stems from that too, though, is another conversation. But
right. Well, and you stand for you. So then in this moment, the mission may look like this. The mission may look like that, or like that, or like that, right? Or it may lead. That's how it goes. And it's self-fulfilling because you're telling you're proofing you're getting in alignment with you're strengthening all of you to say, yeah, I got this. I got what next. Okay. That's why I keep saying, for me, it's okay. I get this, I get that, whatever it is. And sometimes one might think it's as simple as, breathing into this thought or breathing into this frustration or whatever, right? Which actually is not all that simple because you go through all those layers and you go through, because it's multidimensional, all the different aspects and angles and frequencies and components to it. And that right there is an op that you're on. It's part of your mission because it enhances it, brushes off the distortions. It does a whole host of things so that I can then stand for me more fully, more completely, more in a clean, clear, heart-based frequency, which is the truth of who I am.
Well, with what I've come to see, sense, and feel now at this point is that with every showing up point with each being, where they show up for themselves and they stand for themselves. What I kept seeing the entire time throughout this conversation is that it's like as that being stands for self, and it's a ripple effect that's part of the watching, the noticing, the facilitating of the Great Awakening.
Yes.
Because as each of us anchor that light in that way, and that is what I feel that is.
Mm-hmm.
It can't help but, and I say ripple because in one way it feels like a ripple, but in my mind's eye, and it was like it's like that. It's like the huge flash, that great whoosh, flash out, and it happens over and over and over, and every single moment that one stands in that standing for self, regardless of what it is, right. taking a few moments out to take care of the physical vessel, moving only towards that which one desires, whatever it is.
Yeah, whatever the metaphor in that moment is.
Right.
That's just an interesting point. Oh, right. Look at that. Hey, but it's just a metaphor at that moment.
Right. Whatever is happening.
And as we talked about at the very beginning, is that it's essential. You standing for you is essential and an integral component of all of that success, of all of the great awakening, of all of the all coming to fruition in the most expansive moment possible. And of course it's eternal and it's multidimensional, so it keeps going on, but you're the one who's essential to that.
Right.
Because if you just take 50 people and only 10 of them are standing for self and doing that, then they've got, for the aggregate, for the whole for everything to come into coherence and expansion, they have to work a lot harder because the other people are not showing up for themselves.
Yes, and that's what a lot of starseeds experience as they do start standing up, not standing up, but standing for self and moving towards what they desire. There's a lot of, starseed light workers. Pick your an acronym, name, whatever it is one wants to feel that they are. Then looks around and notices they're kind of on their own because these other boobs don't want to stand for self. Well, that's okay. I have to say that I still feel like there's reasons that there's a bit of spread out, and part of it is that solar flashing. It is making a difference. That's why with every one that stands for self in every moment of now, it rises the frequency on this planet.
Absolutely.
And so the things that are
in exponential ways.
Yes. So I wouldn't be overly concerned about being alone.
No, because
honestly, I wouldn't.
And for you, you actually are changing the potentiality, the field of aloneness or not, because your waves are going out.
Yes.
It's when you don't stand for you that you're perpetuating your aloneness because you're not standing for you.
Right.
So you haven't even showed up for you. Well, how can you get anything else to show up for you?
No, that is correct. Thank you for that, because well, and it does change everything as that flash, those ripples, whatever, however anyone feels it happening, goes out. It just like you said, it's an exponential thing, and it breaks loose different things all over the place. So, wow.
So I would request that, if you're moved to, play with it and notice, just pick one or two that happen through the day and be present. And I guarantee you, when you stand for you, you will be astonished at that, the picture that you can now notice of all these things that you never saw or noticed going on in just a snapshot of a moment. And the act of doing that is the act of standing for you, and it ripples out and it changes that particular moment and instant. And it's really fun to go, you can see not only the great awakening in real time, but your superpowers coming online, not only coming online, but in effect, in beingness right that moment. You can see snapshots of that. And if you have a sense that there's being alone, all that will disappear, because what you when you stand for you, what you reflect back to you, immerse yourself in, can feel, be part of, and truly notice it so you're immersed in it, is this amazing dance. It's this amazing, um, it's almost like you were in a tank of water, and the water is love. The water molecules are expansion and consciousness and in all possibilities. And as each little bubble molecule of water comes by, you hold it. It's like a pearl in the ocean, and you can see all the facets of it. And just by noticing it, it shows you its magic. It all comes into coherence with one another. And when you notice that, now every molecule in you, on all of your bodies, is effervescent and waking up, and you're vibrating, and your sensory array, even if you never knew you had a sensory array, comes online. And all the wondrous things that you tune into, because they are you, and you avail yourself of because you are them, you realize there is no separateness. There is no out there, in there. It is all this field of unimaginable, unending potential. And then again, you notice, you facilitate, you pluck it out of no thing into the materialize of a thought, an action, a deed, a co-creation, whatever it is.
Yeah, for me, that takes focus and attention. That takes focus and attention. But the more I practice paying attention to me and all those levels of me, the easier it shows up. Um, yeah. So
play with it, because it's the funnest game you will find yourself playing with.
yeah, that's true. I have to. I have not. I yeah. Oh yeah. I was it was something I was saying the other day that uh I've never had this much fun. In the last few years of my life here, I have never had this much fun. And from the linear outside looking in, huh? What is she talking about? Nothing's changed for her. Oh, okay.
Everything.
And yet everything has changed.
Yes.
So yeah. And so then there's something to that having fun thing, man, I tell you. Well, I really appreciate this one, BZ. I love that. Was this kind of, because I had a sense that we were going to be talking about something else, but this one really kind of happened as they do sometimes. Just
well, the two different things we were talking about were, it was a big thing here and a big thing here, and this was the one that went right down the middle that needed to be there, so the others can then, unfold.
I gotcha. All right, awesome. Well, I would love to
Well,
hear.
that's what I needed to hear. So
then you showed up for you. Hey, all right. Well, I would love to hear from folks, about what they're noticing about their own, and also that, because for me this entire thing started where I saw what you were describing with the different layers of frequency, especially with interactions. When we interact in the public, there's always different layers of frequencies, especially this time of year in the publics. there's all kinds of different frequencies out there. And so I would invite, and I would love to hear from viewers about your experiences with noticing you're showing up for you, uh, being you, standing for you, and the noticing of the layers of the frequencies and how, as they permeate through that interaction, what your experience has been. I would love to hear from others about this, because with a little focus and attention and paying attention while that's happening, I have a feeling that you'll experience it for yourself, and you'll be able to see, sense, and feel it quite easily from that
Absolutely. And you know, it's
perspective.
funny. One thing that just came to mind is for those who are thinking, well, they'd like to know what their mission. Well, this is an op on your mission. So play with it.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, you've just been given
Yeah.
an op on your mission.
Yeah.
So reach out to either of us, both of us, in the comments. If you are subscribed to BZ's channel, come over and subscribe to Conscious Conversation Central. And if you're subscribed to Conscious Conversation Central, go over and subscribe to BZ Rieger's channel. We both do put up videos that are different from each other. So, but this video will be on both channels, but that way you're assured of being notified. And I have been going live more often. So be sure to subscribe and comment. We'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. Stand for you.
Yeah. Mwah. Till next time.